Okay, so part 2 of episode 18. I would have done this entire thing in one sitting, however, my camera was about to die, and I don't like having to edit videos because it takes a really long time, and I'm lazy, and I don't really know how to edit well, but whatever. It's the same episode, but the difference is this is part 2, and I have a different shade of lipstick on! Just wanted to make that known. Okay, anyway, so moving on with the Kevin story. So throughout the rest of this semester, it was like me trying to figure out how to talk to the guy, and I ended up like somehow forging a really good friendship with Dean. Like in the beginning, it was kind of like the only reason why I talked to him was to try to talk to Kevin, and then it turned out that like him and I had like, it was fun to hang out with him. But I still kind of didn't go to their table during lunchtime because I was like still a little freaked out about that. And again, like Kurt kind of scared me at the time. But as time went on, I started to get more comfortable being around Kurt, more comfortable being around Dean and Justin and like everyone else. It was just Kevin. So I remember one time I was walking, creepy as fuck me, was walking up, was like down in the lower lot where his car was, like, just walking around, going up to like, so I can like pass him. And then I don't even remember what happened, but I think he like was like, Kim, come here. And I was like, oh, what did I do now? I was wearing my black parachute pants, and then we were just kind of talking, and I was like, look, I just want a chance with you. And he was like, okay. And again, I'm creepy as hell. So that happened, and that's about it, except on the very, very last, like the last week of school, during finals week, I was hanging out with Megan, and I was doing something during lunchtime, and all of a sudden I hear Kevin call my name, and I was like, oh, what did I do now? So I followed him to wherever he wanted to, like, there was like, we went up to like, up this hill next to this gate thing, and he was like, hey, so the thing is, I really like you. And like, in my head, it was like as if angels were singing, and I was happy and jubilant, and there was like confetti everywhere. And I was like, excited. He was like, yeah, I really like you. You're a really good person with a sweet heart, and I can tell you're a girl after God's own heart, or a very godly woman, or something like that, which made me super happy. Because, I try to be a good Christian girl. It's hard sometimes. But yeah, so I was like, okay, and he said something to the effect of, I like you, but I can't really date you because I'm really young. And he even mentioned that his mom was like, yeah, he mentioned that his mom said that dating at this age or that age was like really hard, or like not really worth it, or something. Like, it wasn't the best idea because we were young. And he's like, yeah, like I really like you. And so I was happy, except he ran off to go hang out with his friends, and I was like kind of dancing a little bit, and I found Megan and some other chick, and I was just kind of sitting there like happy and dancing and singing. And then like I turned around and I saw Kevin, and I just looked at him and I was like, ew, really? This goes back to my idea of I enjoy the chase more than the actual person. I don't even like know, like, all this hype, and then as soon as he was like, hey, I like you back, like, there, like something in me kind of changed where it's like, oh, I don't really want you anymore. But then like I remember like that same day I went up to him and I was like, hey, so this one time I was mad at you, so I threw a piece of cantaloupe at you. I'm really sorry about that. And he's like, okay, whatever, I forgive you. But the thing is, it's like, I kind of got over the ew phase, and I was like happy again. It was weird though, because like he still didn't call me, and he still like, he didn't even ask me for my number, because if you're gonna say something like, hey, I like you, we should hang out or something like that, you should at least ask that person like for their phone number or something. So that was kind of odd, but I was too happy at the time to like think about this. So the thing is, like, right when the summer, I think I told Dean and I was happy about it, and Dean was like, "Yay, good for you," or honestly, I forgot what Dean's reaction was. But anyways, so afterwards, right when summer started, I went to the Philippines for, it was like a month and a half. And the entire time I was in the Philippines, I was telling my cousins, like, yeah, I have a boyfriend, even though it wasn't official. And, like, I told my cousins, like, yeah, I have this guy, we like each other, I'm so super excited. And at the time, he was really, not obsessed with, but he really wanted to join the Air Force after high school. Like, he didn't really have set plans to go to college, but he said, like, yeah, when I graduate high school, I'm going to go straight into the Air Force. And so, like, when I was in the Philippines, I was telling my cousins how happy I was, and what else did I do? Like, I reread, because I have a journal, and, like, I wrote everything that happened that day, and, like, I would reread that journal entry, like, the entire day, like, I mean, I would reread that journal entry, like, every couple days, or almost every day, because I was happy. And I was like, you know what, like, it's gonna be hard, but I'll be okay with being an Air Force wife or an Air Force girlfriend, and I'm okay waiting for my soldier to get back. And, like, I was thinking about that stuff, and yeah. So I come back from the Philippines and I get on Skype. Like, honestly, the only reason why I got a Skype account was to talk to Kevin and, Dean. Yeah. And, like, my other friends. And so I was on Skype and I was, like, just talking to, like, I saw that Kevin was on. So I was like, oh my god, like, Kevin, how are you? And I was, like, saying, like, oh my gosh, the Philippines was great. I really missed you. Like, how are you? Tell me about, like, what you were doing. And, like, he wasn't... Okay, this is a thing that happens across the board, but it really bothers me, it'll bother me forever. Like, guys, they don't really tell you, like, stories. They only tell you, like, bullet points, if that makes sense. Like, for a girl, you'll ask her, hey, how are you doing? And she'll tell you what happened her entire day. You ask a guy, hey, how are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm good. And they'll just leave it at that. So, like, with Kevin, it was kind of the same thing where, like, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I really missed you. I told my cousins about you. I'm so excited. I'm so happy, like, when are we gonna hang out? And then he was just like, yeah, okay, sure. And then all of a sudden, he was like, Kim, I need to tell you something. I'm sorry, I don't like you. And I was like, wait, what? I remember looking at my computer screen, kind of like, is this really happening? What happened while I was gone? And so he was like, yeah, the thing is, like, even though I said that I liked you, I didn't mean it. As you can imagine, that broke my heart, because, I spent an entire month, like, hyping this up because I was excited and I was going to go back, and even if we weren't, like, boyfriend, girlfriend, we, like, would have liked each other, and that would have been something. But, like, my heart sank at that moment, because, he went from, I like you, to, I'm sorry, like, I didn't mean it. And it's like, what the fuck? So, I, like, remember I went on, like, I was on Skype, and I started IMing Marissa, our mutual friend, and I told her what happened, and she was like, oh my gosh, Kim, I'm so sorry. And at that moment, like, I didn't cry or anything, but I was devastated, as you can imagine. Like, what happened while I was gone? Like, why would you say to someone, I like you, and then change your mind? Excuse me. Why would you tell someone I like you and then take it back and say that you didn't mean it? Why would you do that? I found out why. Oh, wait, really quick. So, further proving that Megan is the bestest friend in the entire world. That night, like, I think it was like midnight or something, and Megan goes to bed early, so that night I called her and I left a message, and I was like, yeah, so I came, like, when I got back and I went on Skype and I tried talking to Kevin, and he said that he didn't like me, or he took it back or whatever. And then, like, I kind of cried a little bit over the phone because I was sad. And then the next day, I went to Megan, like, I called Megan because I was supposed to go pick her up at her house or something. And I was like, hey, did you get my voicemail? And she like, yeah, I did. Kim, I'm so sorry. And, like, she was like, she wasn't gonna cry, but I can tell that in her voice she was sad for me. And then when I went to her house, she wrote this thing for me that I keep in my Bible. It has, like, it's this little piece of paper that maybe you can't really see. On this side it says Psalm 34:18. On this side it's Psalm 31, 9 through 10, 14 through 15. She, like, wrote it out for me. And, like, you know, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, so you know what, like, further proving that Megan is the best friend a girl can ask for. And then, yeah, so that happened. And also I remember in the Skype IM thing, I was just, and he just kind of said, yeah, you were talking to me as if we were dating, but we're not. I'm sorry, I don't like you. So yeah, that was a thing. So I got over it. And there's another episode kind of talking about how I got over it, because I'm a terrible, awful person. But yeah, turns out this is why he changed his mind. And I forgot how, like, a couple months later, like, you know, Dean and, like, I'm, you know, I would say that I'm quite assimilated into that little group now. Whenever Megan had to, Megan was in student count, like, yeah, this is senior year now. So, like, you know, during the summer, like, I think that was the first time Dean invited me over to his house with, like, all of our friends. Like, it was Dean, his little group, and then he invited me. And to me, that was really special because, like, I felt as if they finally accepted me, I guess you can say. And, like, I'll get into my whole spiel about that little group at the end. But I felt as if, like, you know, I was finally assimilated into the group. Dean invited me to his house during the summer with everyone else. We hung out. We had a jubilant time. And I began sitting with them during lunch when Megan wasn't there, because Megan was in student council, so she wasn't there at lunch, like, a couple times a week. And whenever Megan was gone, I would sit at their table and hang out with them. This is why Kevin changed his mind. I forgot how the conversation came up. I think I was just kind of talking about what happened during the summer. And then I think, gosh, I forgot exactly how, like, who told me and how the conversation came up, but this is what happened. So at the time, like, in junior year, Dean started going out with his first girl, well, what I think is his first girlfriend. Like, he started going out with a girl who, that's his story to tell, but it is kind of a funny story. And so, you know, Kevin just told me he liked me, and now he was on Skype with Dean and Justin. So Kevin was just like, yeah, like, I finally, you know, I asked Kim out, and, like, now we can go on double dates and blah, 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 blah. So he was telling all this to Dean, like, yeah, I'm finally going to go out with Kim. We can have double dates, you, me, and our girlfriends. And then Justin gets into the call, and Dean and Kevin were just kind of like, yeah, this is what just happened. Just, like, there was a pause. And then Justin, like, slam, like, you can hear Justin slam his head on his keyboard or, like, on his desk or whatever. And then, like, Justin just, like, logged off. He was like, and then, like, apparently there was, like, a silence, and Kevin was like, oh. So basically the reason why Kevin changed his mind was because Justin did not approve. So anyways, yeah, so I remember senior, so, like, when I heard that story, I was, like, kind of mad, but at the same time, like, relieved. Because the more that I hung out with that group, the more that I, like, you know, the more you hang out with someone, the more you get to know them, obviously, duh. So I started to like get to know Kevin a little bit more, and then I realized that he was not the person for me at all. He and I are very, very different. Not to sound classist or whatever it's called, I don't really know the correct term for it. I have been in high school, I was an AP and honors student, and I had straight A's pretty much all throughout high school. He took the regular classes, and he didn't do so well sometimes. So that kind of gives you a little hint of how that is. So yeah, but like I remember though, like I asked him if he would go to the Sadie Hawkins with me. He said no. I remember that. Let's see. Okay. So there was like this thing, like we had a senior retreat during the beginning of the year, and like there was like this yarn time where like we sat, like we all had to like sit in a dark black room and like toss around this ball of yarn, and when like piece of like when the ball got to you, you had to like say something. So it could have been like a, hey, I'm sorry dude for this. It was like a cathartic thing. And I remember that night, and Kevin apologized to me. He was like, I'm really sorry. He actually was like, hey, Kim, I'm sorry for the way that I treated you. I'm sorry that because of me, you're a feminist. Which is bullshit. Okay, just to say, like, I've been really interested in women's rights, and I've cared about women's rights for a really long time, like, even before I really met him. But I think, like, I was really angry at him that's what kind of pushed me over the edge into like, fuck you everyone. But like I see what he meant. I just remember like, okay, when I came back from the Philippines and like that whole thing happened, I did make this, like I actually sewed up like one of my favorite shirts now. It's like a black shirt with a white girl symbol on it. So yeah. But anywho, let's see. There's more to the story. I know there is. So, yeah, there was the senior thing where he apologized to me. I asked him to Sadie Hawkins. He said no, which still bothers me that I took myself and that no one asked me to prom. But the thing is, though, like, I will say that Kevin is kind of moody, and I remember, like, one time he like was really mad. I don't even know why, that like when I sat down to like have lunch with them, like Kevin looked at me and he looked at everyone else. He got up and left, and then like they told me what was going on and what the problem was. And I remember looking at Justin, and I was like, Justin, I really want to thank you right now, because if it weren't for you, I'd probably be dating him. So thank you for being a really big part of stopping that. But I just, like, also I kind of remember Dean telling me that, like, a lot of, like, actually the entire group, pretty much, well, for the most part, was trying to get us together, and, like, they wanted to see what would have happened. But at the end of the day, like, I'm okay that I never dated him. So, oh, yes, another story. Like, honestly, like, after I graduated high school, the only person that I really kept in contact with, besides Megan, because obviously she's my best friend and she's my roommate, the only other person that I kept in contact with is Dean. So, you know, whenever Dean had, like, a huge party or something, I'd always go if I could. But, wait, I forgot where I was going with this. But yeah, like, oh god, I feel terrible now. Anyways, yeah, so, like, the only okay, yeah, now I remember where I was going with this. The only time that I ever really, okay, out of all the people I graduated with high school, besides Megan, because she's my best friend and we are roommates, the only person that I talk to is Dean. Like, we taught, like, during the school year, it's a little different because, you know, like, school's hard, and he's pre-med, and, like, we talk every other week, I want to say. But anyways, like, I remember that one day I went to Universal Studios with my dad, And, you know, me and my dad were just hanging out, doing our thing, and we were on the tram tour. And I was like, all of a sudden, my phone started ringing. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, whatever, I'm on the tram tour, blah, blah, blah. I didn't pay much attention to it. And then it started ringing again, and I looked at my phone, and it said Kevin, and I was like, okay, he's probably doing it on accident. And honestly, up until this point, I haven't heard from him for like an entire year almost, because the last time I saw him was at Dean's house. That's like honestly the only time I ever really talked to them. But anyways, like I was like, okay, it's probably a mistake. No, it wasn't. He like, when like it would stop ringing, he would call again. And then he would call again. And then he would call again. And at first I was like, okay, I'm just going to ignore it. Like, it's probably a mistake. And then I realized that, no, it wasn't a mistake. He was calling me intentionally. And I was like, okay, whatever. Like, leave a message, man. Yeah, no. He didn't leave a message. He kept on calling and calling and calling and calling. And I was like, okay, I haven't talked to this kid, like, in a year. What the heck? So I texted him and I was like, hey, I'm with my dad right now at Universal Studios. Can I just call you tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, sure, that's whatever. So so I told my dad what was going on, and my dad was like, I don't even think you should call him or talk to him, because my dad's that type of person. It's kind of great. And so, I, you know, against my father's will, the next day I called him and I was like, hey, what's up? What are you calling me for? And he's like, hi, Kim. I have to confess something to you. Remember how, like, in high school, I said I liked you, but then I took it back? I was like, yeah. Well, the thing is, I lied about that. The thing is, I really liked you, and I still really like you, but the reason why I changed my mind was because of my friends. Really? You think that's going to fly? And, like, the thing is, like, I anticipated it, and I kind of expected him to say something like that. So I was just kind of like, you know what, Kevin, that's a very sweet thing for you to say, but I don't really want to date anyone right now. I'm just trying to focus on school, but I would be willing to, like, get dinner with you, but, you know, it'd just be as friends. And I emphasized just friends. And then it was like, okay, bye, whatever, and I hung up. I called Megan because I wanted to tell her what happened. She wouldn't answer the phone. She was probably working out or something like that. So then I called Dean, and I was just like, Dean, Kevin called me. Silence. He asked me out. Silence. And Dean was just like, after like a 5 seconds of like silence, Dean was like, what did you say? And I was like, oh, I said no. And Dean was like, good for you. So yeah, that's kind of the whole debacle. I mean, the only time I ever see Kevin is, yeah, whenever Dean has a party. That's it. And Dean has a party twice, like 2-3 times a year. That's it. That's the only contact that I ever have with him. Like, I saw him a couple weeks ago because, you know, Dean had a party. And, he seems like he's okay. He works for UPS, and he, like, does that thing. And also, what else? I think he does, like, lights or something for his church, because I remember in high school he won an award for, like, for community service, and it was related to his church. There's other things I can say, but too nice of a person to say them. I will say this though, like, again, in part 1, I kind of mentioned how this is actually more of a story of how I became friends with Dean and that little group. It really is, honestly, because, like, I started after the whole Skype thing, like, I started getting on Skype a little bit more often to talk to Dean and to talk to Kevin, and then everyone else was there, and I ended up being friends with them, and they're my favorite band of misfits. They made high school really fun. I realized that, like, I probably wasn't, like, a main part of their group, but I still felt as if, like, I was accepted into their little group, which, like, still makes me smile to this day. Like, they were pretty important to me. I will say, though, that sometimes Kurt would tell a story and I would sit there like, why did you just say that? And some of the things that he said haunt me to this day. But, like, they're, like, still in my heart. They always will be. And, like, when I get married, they're definitely invited. I just, hope that's not weird for Kevin. But, yeah, like, again, besides Megan, the person that I talk to the most from high school is Dean. Like, we talk at least, like, once, like, twice, like, once to 2 times a month. And the thing is, like, Dean has been a significant person in my life. I know, like, sometimes when I need help with something or, like, I need some unbiased male opinion, I go to Dean because he's a good source of that. And it's been really lovely to see how Dean has grown in the Lord. And I'm saying all this stuff, Dean, because I told you to watch this, and you better watch this damn thing because I watched a 45-minute video for you. You can watch this! But yeah, it's just like whenever I see them, it always kind of makes me happy. And also, like, so Dean actually gave me this for Christmas, which was really sweet of him. But, like, okay, so I remember this one time I went to China, and then Dean was like, hey, bring me a rock from the Great Wall. I got him, like, a decent small rock, and then I mailed it to him, and, like, when he got it, he called me, and he's like, what the hell, Kim, this is small. That really hurt. Still kind of hurts to this day. But anyways, yeah, so, like, those couple months were torturous, or, like, they were sad or whatever. Like, let's just, round it up. Like, that year was difficult for me because, I liked a guy, he didn't like me back, he thought I was creepy as hell, which, was actually an acceptable assumption because I was really creepy. And, but at the end of the day, I ended up really, really good friendship. So that makes me happy. And also, like, again, my favorite little band of misfits, they honestly taught me how men work. Like, because, for instance, with women, we elaborate when it comes to stories. We go into detail. Like, honestly, if I was a guy doing this vlog, each episode would probably be, like, 5 minutes max. However, as a woman, I have to elaborate and, like, say a whole bunch of stuff and add in detail, which makes them longer. Also, women, like, we're constantly complimenting each other and telling each other we love each other, but then with men, they're just like, they call each other fags and punch each other in the stomach. And, like, that kind of shows me how, like, different men and women are when it comes to showing affection. So, like, they have, like, I don't know, I love them all to death, and I can easily say that openly, and it's just, even though sometimes, like, it's even, okay, again, those couple months were painful, and it really sucked, and I was sad, but at the end of the day, I met my favorite band of misfits, and I ended up having a really good friendship that's probably gonna follow me throughout the rest of my life, or at least I really hope so. So, yeah. And, okay, another quick little story that I just remembered. I remember that there was, like, this really popular girl who would flirt with Kevin, and then I would get really sad because, like, she was popular and she kind of already had a boyfriend. And why is she, like, sneaking up on my man? And I remember one day I was like, you know what? She can have him. I just want him to be happy. But, like, he kind of hated her. But, yeah. But anyways, so that's about it. That is the whole Kevin story, and wow, this is a really long video. But yeah, you have to watch this, Dean, I'm forcing you to watch this entire thing. But yeah, just, like, I don't know, it's kind of funny how God does these weird things that, like, they suck at the moment, but then at the end of in the end, it just brings you so much joy and happiness. And, like, whenever I, the little note that I showed you in my Bible, whenever I look at it, I remember 2 things. First off, I remember how much of a badass my best friend is. Second off, I remember God's protection because, like, okay, Kevin made a big deal about joining the Air Force when we were in high school, but then, like, after we graduated, he didn't join the Air Force because he was scared he was going to die. And, like, when I look at it, like, if I dated Kevin, I would have had, like, kind of a crappy relationship, but I didn't date Kevin. Instead, I got really good friends. Another side note, I just kind of, like, remember, like, telling Marissa, like, if, like, first off, like, Kevin's a huge gamer, and we would talk about, like, he really liked World of Warcraft, and I was like, if we dated, I would get a World of Warcraft account. And then, like, one time I was talking to, Marissa, and I was like, honestly, if we dated and he really wanted to play video games, I would just go on the couch and take a nap. And Marissa was just kind of like, wow, you would have napped a lot then. You're a good girlfriend. You would have been a good girlfriend. I'm like, thank you. But yes, again, just to reiterate, those couple months sucked, but in the end, I got to meet my favorite band of misfits, and I got a really good friendship that I really do sincerely hope will follow me throughout the rest of my life. So, thank you for watching part 2 of episode 18. This video is now 31 minutes long. Wow! Yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and, you know, taking the time out of your day to see some girl blab about stuff that happened in her past. Okay, thanks, bye!